Hey everybody, almost done with these videos. I just can't even tell you how excited I am for that. But we are going to talk about surface area today. Surface area is different than volume. Volume is how much stuff goes in, fills up something. Surface area is how much covers something. So when we're talking surface area, today we're going to do prisms and cylinders. Ooh, good. I got my calculator too. You might need yours. When we're talking surface area, I'm going to kind of show you that the method that I like to do, which is kind of break it down into shapes and then just add them all up at the end. I've had success with it, teaching it that way as well. So hopefully it'll work out for you and then we'll be good. So let's start with a basic rectangular prism. Cool. And let's say this is 15 inches, 9 inches, and 8 inches. So when we're finding the surface area, the first thing I'm going to do is I pretend like I have scissors and I cut on all the edges, right? And then I look at what shapes I have left. So for example, see if you can follow this. I have this rectangle right here, right? In fact, I have two of those rectangles, right? Because the front is going to be congruent to the back. So I'm going to set that up as two rectangles. So I write how many there are, what shape it is, and then how do I find the area of those? So in this case, length times width is going to be 8. So those are going to be 15 by 8. So two rectangles that are 15 times 8. That's what I got. I also have these rectangles, which are the right side and the left side. So I have two rectangles that are 9 by 8. And then I'm going to have also, can't forget about the top and bottom, right? So I have the top and the bottom. Those are the same. So I have two rectangles. And let's see, that's going to be 15. That's going to be 8. That are 15 by 8. No. 9. Sorry, that's 9. 15 by 9. There we go. All right, so I'm going to do, every time I do surface area of any shape, I set it up like this first. And I write down all the shapes that I see, how to find the area of those shapes. Now the solving part is super duper easy, because I'm just going to do whatever I wrote here. I already wrote down how to do it. So 15 times 8, for example, is 120. But you got to take into account how many of them you have. So then you multiply by 2, because there's 2 of them. And I'm going to do the same thing. 9 times 8 is 72. But I had 2 of them. So multiplying that by 2, it's 144, I think. And then 15 times 9 is 135. And I have 2 of those. And that's 270. So I just go across, find all those areas, multiply by how many I have, and then your last step is already set up for you. You just add straight down. 4, 8, 9, 10, so 5, 6. So the surface area is 654 inches squared. Now, unit-wise, we're talking about area now, so we're going to be in inches squared, not in inches cubed, right, like we were for volume, because now we're talking about how much it takes to cover. So we want to know inches squared. So that's it. I'm just going to set it up like that every single time. So here's a rectangular prism. Let's do a triangular prism. So let's say I had that looks really bad. I'll lose all my street cred if I draw triangular prisms like that. There we go. Okay, so couple things here. So when we talk about what kind of shapes we have, these two bases have to be congruent, but the rectangles around them do not have to be. And so this is one of those things that you got to be really careful about. So let's say they gave us some diagrams here, and they said this triangle over here was 22 centimeters, and this is 16 centimeters, 16 centimeters, and this one up here is 12 centimeters, and this over here is 64 centimeters. Cool. So, when we're talking about what shapes we have, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but we have obviously two triangles. Let's start there. Because our prism, we know that those have to be congruent. So when I'm talking about the area of those triangles, I know it's 1/2 base times height. Hopefully you guys have learned that over the last week and a half. So look for the right angle. The base is 22. The height is 12. Whatever meets at the right angle, those are my base and my height. Now, when I look at the rectangles, I have 3 of them, but I only put the ones together if they're congruent. So if you look here, the triangle, the base, is going to tell you how many of these other rectangles around the outside are the same. They're all going to have a length of 64, but these two have a width of 16. This one has a width of 22. That's not always going to be the case. Sometimes they all might be the same. Sometimes it might all be different. You just got to look. So in this case, we have 2 rectangles that are 16 by 64. And we have 1 rectangle that's 22 by 64. And that's all my shapes. Cool. So now I just got to do all the worky parts, right? So 1/2 times 22 is 11. 11 times 12 is going to give you 132. But don't forget there's 2 of those. So that's going to be 264. 16 times 64 is 1024. But again, there's 2 of those. Let's multiply that by 2. We get 2048. And then lastly, 22 times 64 is going to be 1408. There's only 1 of those, so we just leave that. And then we're just going to add. 4, 8, and 8 is going to be 20. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 3, 7, and 3. So it looks like the surface area here is 3,720 centimeters squared. And I'm just going to set it up that same way. All right, last but not least, the cylinder. The cylinder is the trickster. Always those ones with circles. So a cylinder is going to have 2 circles, right? That's easy peasy. But what is the rest of it? That is an excellent question. So let's say the radius here, we'll just keep it easy. We'll just say it's 5 meters. And let's say this is 7 meters. Cool. So we have 2 circles. We're going to write on our shapes. And we know the area of a circle is pi r squared. Hopefully you learned that too. So pi times our radius is 5 squared. Now, what about the outside part? Well, have you ever had a can of soup and then you tear the label off and then you roll it out? It's a rectangle. That's what's around the outside of this thing. Imagine if you just made a very small cut and peeled the outside off. It's going to make a really long rectangle. So how do you find the area of this rectangle? Well, you need this length, which is the circumference. That would be the length of the rectangle. And then the width would be the height of the cylinder. So for this rectangle part, all right, it's going to be pi times the diameter, not the radius, the diameter. So we're going to have to double it. Pi d, that's that part, times the height, which is this 7. So I'm going to write it like this. One rectangle that is pi times, if my radius is 5, my diameter, the whole thing is going to be 10. And then times 7, because that's the height of the cylinder. That is how you're always going to have to set that one up. That's one of those weird ones. You're just going to have to know that stuff. Sorry, life's not easier. All right? Write it down. Take good notes so that you know what you're talking about. So let's see what we got. So 5 times 5 is 25 times pi is 78.5. But don't forget there's 2 of those. So that's 157. And then down here, my rectangle is going to be 10 times 7 times 3.14. And that gave me 219.8. And there's only one of those rectangles, so then all we got to do is add them up. 6, 7, 3. So this cylinder, if we wanted to cover it, is going to be 376.8 meters squared. Cool. And that is the basics behind surface area. I'm going to do this method where I break down the shape every single time. And that's what I highly recommend you guys to do. I think it works the best, and you can actually show all the steps that you're doing that way too. So pretty good stuff. The last thing I really have to teach you is going to be, again, pyramids and cones. We're not going to do surface areas of a sphere. It's actually just a formula, kind of like volume of a sphere, but for some reason you need to know volume. I don't know. Whatever. All right, I'm done. I keep rambling. Cool. I'm almost done teaching you guys. Can you believe it? Yay! Later.